Christine Niles. Today, September 20th, 2025. Here are this week's top stories. A bishop is confirming that Charlie Kirk may have been close to converting. Bishop Joseph Brennan of Fresno, California, recounted a conversation he had with a conservative leader a week before he died. Kirk was at a pro-life fundraiser in Visalia and revealed to the bishop he and his wife had been attending Catholic Mass, and then said, quote, "I'm very close." We confirmed directly with John Yep, head of Catholics for Catholics, and a longtime friend of Kirk's, that Kirk was seen at daily Mass, not just Sunday Mass, at a Catholic church in Scottsdale, Arizona. Kirk was also meeting privately with a Catholic priest whom Yep introduced him to.
He asked me if I knew any Catholic priests he could talk to. A couple of weeks later, he was sitting in the office of a dear priest friend. On his way over, he asked me if I would be in that meeting. I said, no, I think it's best that you meet with him alone. The relationship between that priest and the Kirk family became very close. It became a source of great strength for them during these last tragic days. It was a providential connection that was made, and I'm forever honored to have played a role in connecting this great warrior for Christ with a noble representative of Christ's church in this Catholic priest.
A private text exchange between them reveals Kirk saying, quote, "We need millions of Catholics praying the rosary for Trump." Kirk's friend Candace Owens recently revealed that Kirk himself was praying the rosary. The pro-life side won at Yale University. At the Ivy League campus on Tuesday, pro-life activist Lila Rose went head-to-head with pro-abort Catholic Francis Kissling.
History is full of moments when humanity was denied and the consequences were catastrophic. And in every case, the humanity that is denying the rights or the value to the other has more power.
And no one really can say the only decision they can make is to carry the pregnancy to term, whatever it means for them and their life.
The crowd voted at the end, with the pro-life side winning a decisive victory, 60 in favor and 31 against. Rose explained it was Charlie Kirk's death that inspired her to take part in the debate.
And after receiving that gut-wrenching news that Charlie had been killed, I felt a strong sense of calling that I should do it and go to Yale. And so here I am. I'm going to be going. I'll be doing some more college events this fall as well. But I feel like it is more important than ever for people of faith and conscience to not be afraid right now, to speak the truth with love, to speak out on behalf of the vulnerable.
In other pro-life news, assisted suicide may be losing in the UK. The House of Lords held a debate September 12th on the end-of-life bill. Right to Life UK analyzed the speeches, showing 67% oppose the bill, while 33% are in favor.
My lords, I'm afraid we already know how the elderly are too often regarded in our society as a burden or a nuisance. We are less inclined than other cultures to care for our elderly in our own homes and more inclined to place them in care. They'll be happier there. They'll be better off there. And in these daily acts of purported compassion is portrayed how some will deal with the unwanted elderly if they can. It isn't hard to see how, with just a small slip down the slope, the elderly will be dispatched.
It must be a law that commands people's trust. A law which ensures that those who implement its measures can be held to account.
The debate is not about compassion. It's all of us want to alleviate the suffering. It's a debate about the means by which we do so, about the kind of society we want to be, and the message we send when the law itself offers death as a solution.
However, my lords, of most concern to me is that this bill poses an inherent risk to the elderly and disabled. Decisions to end life are complex and not simply procedural. They take place in the context of individuals' daily lives. The context of many elderly and disabled people today should raise red flags about how we are caring for them and whether they will face abuse and pressure to end their lives. A context where 46.6% of those who have died in Oregon have cited being a burden.
This is not fear-mongering on my part, my lords. It is documented disparity. And this bill, however well-intentioned, sends a powerful message that in the future, if they're seriously ill, they will be offered suicide deaths as compassionate choice. I do not feel confident that this bill provides safeguarding in wider practices in real-world promise.
The debate comes after the bill was passed in the House of Commons by a slim margin. Another debate will be held in the House of Lords September 19th. And a disturbing report out of Gaza. Children are being deliberately shot in the head and the chest. This from at least 17 international doctors from the UK, the USA, the Netherlands, and other countries who worked in 10 hospitals or clinics across Gaza. Dutch paper De Volkskrant received hundreds of photos, videos, x-rays, and medical notes from doctors confirming that at least 114 children were shot in the head or the chest. The wounds were consistent with deliberate targeting. The children were unarmed and were going to aid distribution sites to get food. This was corroborated by British surgeon Dr. Nick Maynard, who operated on a number of children in Gaza.
And I operate on many of those children. I saw young teenage boys, sometimes as young as 11, 12, 13, who had been shot at these food distribution points. They had gone there to get food for their starving families, and they were being shot. And I operate on many of them. One 12-year-old boy died on the operating table when we were operating because his injuries were so severe. And what was even more distressing was the pattern of injuries that we saw, the clustering of injuries to particular body parts on certain days. So one day they'd be coming in predominantly with gunshot wounds to the head or the neck, another day to the chest, another day to the abdomen. And I operated one day on half a dozen young boys, all of whom had severe abdominal injuries. One day, 12 days ago, 4 young teenage boys came in, all of whom had been shot in the testicles, and deliberately so. And this is not coincidental. The clustering was far, far too obvious to be coincidental. And it seemed to us like this was almost like a game of target practice. We're going to shoot the head today, tomorrow it'll be the chest, the next day it'll be the testicles. I would never have believed this possible unless I'd witnessed this with my own eyes.
A new report by ACLED also reveals that after March of this year, 94% of deaths in Gaza have been civilians. This comes as the United Nations, for the first time, is declaring a genocide in Gaza. The September 16th report comprehensively lists attacks from Israeli military since October 2023, targeting civilian infrastructure, resulting primarily in the deaths of civilian women and children. Israel is dropping in less than a week what the United States was dropping in Afghanistan in a year, in a much smaller, much more densely populated area. The U.S. was the only country on the UN Security Council this week to vote against a ceasefire in Gaza. It's the 6th time the U.S. has voted against it. After Israel has destroyed nearly 90% of Gaza, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich called it, quote, a real estate bonanza.
יש תוכנית עסקית, תקשיבו לי טוב, יש תוכנית עסקית שנבנתה על ידי האנשים הכי מקצועיים שיש, שנמצאת על השולחן של הנשיא טראמפ. לאיך הדבר הזה הופך לבוננזה של נדל"ן, אני לא צוחק, מחזיר את עצמו. אגב, אני התחלתי משא ומתן עם האמריקאים, אני אומר את זה לא בצחוק עכשיו, כי אני גם דורש, הרי אנחנו שילמנו המון כסף על המלחמה הזאת. אז אנחנו צריכים להתחלק, איך אנחנו עושים אחוזים על שיווקי הקרקע אחר כך בעזה, אבל עכשיו לא בצחוק. את שלב ההריסה, שהוא תמיד השלב הראשון בהתחדשות העירונית עשינו, עכשיו צריך לבנות, זה הרבה יותר זול.
As Israel launched its deadly ground assault on Gaza City this week, Pope Leo issued a statement. I express my profound closeness to the Palestinian people in Gaza, who continue to live in fear and to survive in unacceptable conditions, forced once again from their own lands. In the midst of a near total internet blackout, The last Catholic priest in Gaza, Father Gabriel Romanelli, gave an update Friday morning.
Tenemos muy poquito internet, no hay internet. Me han dicho en toda la ciudad, se ve que han roto o bombardeado los cables principales. Así que tenemos muy poquita conexión de un teléfono que casi no nos permite mandar nada. Así que para decirle que estamos bien, ven algunas fotos que también algunos amigos han podido poner de estos días.
In France, a Catholic podcaster was stabbed by what some believe was a Muslim extremist, live on air. On the same day that Charlie Kirk was shot, Ashur Sarnaya, a Chaldean Catholic who was wheelchair-bound, was sharing his faith on TikTok when a Muslim broke in and stabbed his neck. Sarnaya had fled ISIS in Iraq in 2014 and lived in Lyon, France, with his sister. He had complained several times before about Muslim threats. Christian groups are responding with horror, with the group SOS Chrétien d'Orient stating, "It is unimaginable that a Christian who fled persecution should be murdered in France." Lyon has opened a homicide investigation, but currently has no leads. And turning to Brazil, a dictator judge is being slammed for a political prosecution. Earlier this month, Brazil's Supreme Court sentenced former President Jair Bolsonaro to 27 years in prison. Bolsonaro, known as the Trump of the tropics, is the conservative opponent of Brazil's current left-wing leader. He was found guilty of attempting a coup in 2022, a charge he vigorously denies. Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, called by critics a dictator judge for his war on free speech, led the prosecution. His repeated violations of human rights has led to his being sanctioned by the U.S. Department of State in August. Comedian Jimmy Kimmel has been canceled after lying about Charlie Kirk's assassin. Shortly after Kirk was gunned down by a pro-LGBT leftist, Kimmel said this on his late-night show.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Massive backlash ensued, with tens of thousands calling out Kimmel's lie that the shooter was MAGA. Brendan Carr, head of the Federal Communications Commission, issued a warning.
And what people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
On Wednesday, ABC announced it was pulling Kimmel's show indefinitely. That is this week's Catholic News Roundup. Please visit stellamaris.media and sign up to our email list for the latest news and updates. Please support us by liking and sharing this content and supporting our sponsors. Thank you so much for watching. May God bless your week. I'm Christine Niles.